Good morning. I wanted to do a list today of a couple of things that, after ownership of this car, are kind of annoying that you might not think about when you first buy the car or get in the car and do a test drive. So I want to go over a few of those things. One of these is something that happens right after you start up the car. If you live in a house, so you have a garage, and you got to back out of your garage. So this is something that's always annoyed me, and there's no way to turn it off as far as I know. So it's permanently disabled. It's always on when you start the car. What I'm talking about is park assist. Now, park assist is the sensors around the car that are looking for objects that you might hit. So it beeps at you if you're going to hit something. Well, the problem is when you park in a garage, you're obviously next to the walls, next to other cars, bicycles, whatever. So it beeps because of those things. So it's something that happens right after you start the car and put it in reverse. So I'm going to show you that right now. So the car's on. We're going to put it in reverse. And that's all because it thinks there's stuff around me that I'm going to hit. And this goes on until you get out of the garage. Now, as I said, this is defeatable. There's a button down next to the shifter to turn it off. But that doesn't permanently turn it off. It'll turn on the next time you go to park the car. Alright, now the third one on my list is yet another safety device on the car, another electronic aid. So, like I said before, the car has these sensors around it for parking, where it can read the objects around you and let you know if you're too close to them. Well, the forward-facing sensors also do double duty. They also check for the following distance between you and the car ahead of you. So most cars that have this feature, as far as I can surmise, they have this feature so that you don't rear end somebody, so that if you're not paying attention, again, it's another distracted driving aid. If you're not paying attention, maybe this will help you not hit somebody. Well, there's cars like Mercedes and Audi and higher end luxury cars, which technically speaking, I know this is a Chevy and it's $45,000 to $50,000 car. This car, for all intents and purposes, does kind of compete with a 5 Series and an E-Class, in my opinion, because it is a sporty luxury car, and thanks to its being built in Australia by the Holden division, it's actually a very well put together car, in my opinion. So when I'm thinking of things that this car should have that should make it compete with those types of brands, the forward collision avoidance is something that is, it's kind of neat to have. But they didn't go far enough with it, I think, to make it what the other cars have. What I'm talking about is other car brands have systems that actually apply the brake for you, and this car doesn't do that. So if we make this light here, hopefully I can show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so forward collision avoidance, the way you turn it on is the button on the left of the steering wheel here, just above the lane keep assist. So this actually has multiple modes. I've got it off right now, so hitting it once tells you that you've got it off. First click, now we've got a greater distance before it'll warn you. 2 clicks is a medium distance. 3rd click is a short distance. 4th click turns it off again. So let's put it on the short distance. So as soon as we start moving here, I'll be able to show you what I'm talking about, or at least you'll hear what I'm talking about. The car will warn you if you're following too closely, or if the car ahead of you's speed decreases, or you're trying to increase speed when they're not. It's something that can get annoying. So here, let's come up on this guy here real quick. And you know what? It's not going to go off. I think I have it on the setting that's too close. So let's move it to the large gap. See, honestly, I never really used this, so I'm not sure what the difference between the modes is. I couldn't remember if large gap is it'll warn you sooner, or large gap is it gives you more space before it warns you. So I'm not sure. But again, we're at another red light, so I can't show you. But basically, the other thing about this is, you probably can't see because it's on the heads-up display on the windshield, but the heads-up display, which is a good feature, I love that in this car, when you've got the forward collision on, it displays a little green icon of like a car. If there is a car in front of you and you're following at a safe distance, it shows a little green car. So some people who've bought these cars, I was one of them initially when that was on the screen, you know, what is this? Why is there a little green car on my screen? What does that mean? Does it mean I'm driving efficiently? Is it, you know, is it something I don't know if it's on? Well, that's what it is. It's the forward collision thing. So as soon as this light turns green and we get moving, I can hopefully show you what I'm talking about again. So the other thing here is when you get closer to a car, it turns orange when it's kind of telling you that, hey, buddy, you're getting a little close to this guy. Why don't we back off some? Which is understandable. So, okay, here it is. Okay, now we got the little green car. Yeah, this guy's changing lanes, so he's not going to be in front of me, but okay. All right, let's come upon this car. And then that's it. It beeps. And now we've got the little orange car. And now it's back to green. So, basically, the point is that it beeps at you, but the other thing it does is the heads-up display turns almost entirely red with a little image of two cars and a little star above it to signify that, you know, you're going to hit this guy, slow down. Don't drive like an asshole. So basically that's what it's for, which again, it's something that it makes sense. It's a safety feature, but it doesn't do anything other than beep at you and light up on the heads-up display, which you know, let's try that. Let's see, let's turn the heads-up display off. Okay, heads-up display is off, and let's see what this feature does when heads-up display is off, because I've never actually tried this before. Oh, it does still work. Okay, so heads-up display doesn't need to be on for it to work, so that's a good thing. Alright, you don't get the little green icon of the car, though, so it'll only turn on and light up once you've nearly rear-ended the car in front of you, but let's see here. Let's turn this off. Okay. Now, the other thing about this that is important to note is it doesn't work below, I believe, 25 miles an hour. The little green car icon disappears when you're slowing down to a stop like a red light like I am now, and below 25 miles an hour, the green car disappears, which tells me the system turns itself off and is basically like, all right, dude, you're slowing down, you're coming to a red light, you got this. So I don't know, it's one of those features that it's neat to talk about, it's neat to read about and see that the car has it, but in all reality, living with the car, it's not really a feature that I use, I don't care for. It can be intrusive because the other thing it does is it completely cuts out the radio when you're listening to music. So you'll be listening to music and then it just cuts the music out and puts in this beeping noise, which again, makes sense. It's absolutely a good thing, but you know, it's just a little annoyance about the car that when I bought the car, it was on, and after I realized how to turn it off, I turned it off, and I basically never use it because I focus on how I'm driving so I don't rear-end people, so I don't need it for everyday use. Okay, and the next thing on the list of stuff about the car that is a little bit annoying once you've lived with the car, I've had the car about a year and a half now, actually almost exactly a year and a half now, and there's just things about it that are that you don't know on a test drive because you're probably not looking at. You know, some people care about these things enough that they check into it on a test drive. People like me, I'm more concerned about the ride quality, the ergonomics, the fit of how well I fit in the car, the views and everything else, and making sure I can drive it safely and, you know, be comfortable in the car above anything else. So that's how I handle a test drive. I'm not really somebody who fiddles with all the gadgets during a test drive. Partially because, generally speaking, car salespeople, not to say all of them are this way, but I do know that from my experience, most of them don't know enough about the product they're selling. In this car specifically, they don't know a lot about it because it's a very low volume car, that they don't really talk about things that are tech or, you know, certain features this car might have because they just don't know about them. So the next thing I'm talking about here is the radio, the Mylink. It's a great system as far as integration with your phone. I have an iPhone and I'm able to plug it in, and basically I believe it's got Apple CarPlay. If it doesn't, it's got something very similar to it. In fact, you know what, I don't think it does, but it does have something where I can use my Pandora and things like that through the radio. And I can use Siri through the radio when my phone's plugged into the car. It doesn't work with Bluetooth, works when it's plugged in. But basically, the Mylink system, I'm sure you've probably heard it before with other GM cars because it's a across the brand thing, but the problem is it's slow. it's kind of laggy. There's times when, you start the car, you turn the car on, and the navigation screen isn't up right away, and it'll say navigation initializing, and it takes a little longer than the average car. So let's say you want to go somewhere and you got to type in your directions for where you got to go. Well, you kind of got to start the car and wait for the navigation to fire up before you can do that. So it's kind of annoying. It's a little slow. And, I've had other cars. I had a Kia Optima that had a fantastic navigation system. In all honesty, that was probably the best system I've ever used in any car I've ever owned. I had a Dodge minivan which had the Uconnect. That was good, but graphics weren't so great. Good system though. That's, can't fault that. The Uconnect system is pretty well made, so can't really complain about that. But this car, the other problem with the Mylink is and I don't know if it's a Mylink thing or if it's just how this car is. I've never driven another GM car with Mylink and actually used it. My brother's Corvette has it, but when I've driven that car, I haven't really been concerned about the radio too much. So this one, again, living with it, you realize these things. What I'm talking about here is the buttons for the radio on the steering wheel. Now, I've had it before where you hit the volume button up and it doesn't go up the amount of clicks that you hit. And it's kind of slow. Obviously I'm clicking it rather fast, but I clicked it a bunch of times there and it went up 9 levels of the volume. So obviously, yeah, most times you're just going turn this up a couple notches. But if you're kind of like sitting at a stoplight and you got it down a little bit and, I like this song, let's turn it up. You hit the button rapidly, it doesn't really turn itself up. So it has a pretty big lag time between what you're doing and how it reads it. And it kind of, I don't know, I think it might have some sensory thing about it that's just doesn't work well. So that's kind of annoying. But again, not the biggest issue in the world because you got a volume knob right there. It's not too difficult to reach your hand over and turn that up or down. So altogether, I think the system's great, but it is a little slow. I would imagine cars it competes with are probably like a Dodge Charger, cars like that, where they have better systems. That if you're into that, if that really is a concern for you, you may want to try out how this whole interface works for a little bit before you pull the trigger on a car like this, because it really is kind of annoying. If they had something better, I definitely wish it had, because I'm not super satisfied with that. And the other thing about it is it doesn't happen often, and it's not really something I could catch on tape unless I recorded every drive I've ever done. But one of the things navigation has done is it's kind of lost GPS signal and not found itself for quite some time. I just remember a time about a year ago, we were coming back from somewhere and we're on the interstate, and clearly I'm on the interstate. I had the navigation going to get myself home, but the maps, looking at them, my little icon for me is off the road in a lake. And even though I was moving forward and driving at 65 miles an hour, it wasn't moving out of the lake. The navigation at one point decided, okay, we don't know where you are, we're going to put you here, and you're going to stay here. You're not moving, we don't care. So that was a little bit of an annoyance, because it's like, this is a nice car, it's expensive, it's got a newer navigation system, why does it not follow me? Why does it not know where I am? So I believe that might be something that could be fixed with an update of the navigation system. I don't have the update. I know there's a couple of things about this system that have changed that I don't have. It's just a simple trip to the dealer if I wanted them fixed. But again, I'm talking about things here that aren't the biggest problem in the world for me. I mean, if the car was misfiring and idling rough and dying at stoplights, that's something I want to fix. But a navigation system being a little off is not high priority for me, so I don't really care too much that it doesn't work as well as it should. And the last thing on the list that I can think of here of things about the car that after living with it are not the best in the world, and something I, if it could be improved upon, I'd definitely take it. But this is a dying platform, a dying car. They're not making any changes, so it doesn't really matter. They're not going to change it, but it's something that a lot of people complain about, and what that is the gas mileage. Now, this car with a manual transmission avoids the gas guzzler tax just barely for 2015. 2016 and 17, you're going to have to pay the tax. But mine, when I bought it, automatics paid the tax, manuals didn't, purely because the manual got barely better gas mileage through EPA testing, which most people through regular real-world driving, it's a crapshoot. You know, depending on your conditions and climate and everything else, the actual mileage will vary. But basically, it's a problem that you know about going into it, so it's not like it's something that, oh man, I didn't know that. But you get the car, you drive it for a while, and after ownership for a few months, years, you realize, man, this thing really does guzzle down gas, and it's not very efficient at all. I didn't buy it for efficiency, but it does kind of suck when you're, dumping $50-$60 in gas in it every week just to drive it to and from work. So that's why I have a second car. I don't drive this thing daily. I have 7,800 miles on it, and I've had it for a year and a half, so I clearly don't drive it that much. But my lifetime average fuel economy right now is 17.5. So most of my driving to and from work is long stretches of cruising, not a lot of stopping. But just for reference, this car I think is supposed to get 15 city, 21 highway, I think 22. I could be wrong on that, with the average being 16, 17, somewhere in there. So it's getting what it's supposed to get, but it's getting the average. Well, my Jeep Renegade is supposed to average, I believe, like 25, 26 miles per gallon for average driving. Well, driving that on the exact same route to work and back most days, I average about 30 miles per gallon on that car. So basically the point is, if the EPA thinks that Jeep should average 25 and this car should average 17 on the same driving and same driving styles and everything, the Jeep is actually getting better gas mileage than average, and this is getting the average. So it's a little annoying. It's not something that makes you want to go drive the car more, just because of the fact that it does suck down gas pretty quickly. So gas tank's big. It's like a 17, 18 gallon tank, so it's not like you're filling up constantly. I mean, my drive is 50 miles round trip, so I'm putting 250 miles on my car every week, plus little ancillary trips in between when I get home or during the day. So, filling up every week is not to say I'm getting 150 miles per tank. No, I'm still getting close to 300 or more, but we're talking premium, and it's, I don't know, if the car got better gas mileage, that'd be a huge bonus, but that's not going to happen. So Chevy isn't replacing this car as far as we know. Chevy isn't doing any changes to the car. It's this LS3 and that's it, and that's what you get. So it's just something that you're looking at a car that is something you look for. You look for gas mileage, and you can see it on the Monroney. This car gets what it gets, and that's just that. So it's nothing new. It's not a surprise. It's just harsh reality of it does kind of suck. So anyway, that wraps up the things about the car I don't like, and the stuff about it that's kind of annoying, which a few of them were the safety things that, again, they're totally warranted. Cars should have them, but with the exception of the park assist, they're defeatable, so that's pretty good. But it's just a little glimpse of what it's like living with the car, because there are things about it that over time can maybe irritate you to the point where it's not really that desirable of a car to you anymore, just because it's got things about it that aren't up to date with its competitors. So we'll end this video here, and I'm posting the other video. You can check that out, of the things I like about the car, of which there are plenty, but I'll try to limit that one to some specific things about it that you might not know when buying the car initially. It's things that you might figure out after ownership. So give that video a click, like that one, check that out, see what I like about the car. Thanks for checking out what I don't like about the car. And as always, please subscribe and like and share, and have a wonderful day.